27 female, I'm engaged to 44 male, and my best friend of 3 years, 39 male, just told me he loves me. First, I know that this sub has a huge issue with large age gaps, so I would like to point out that the age gap between my fiance and I is not the center of this post. I would appreciate it if you kept your opinions about that to yourselves, please. Now some backstory. I met my best friend Trevor, 39 male, and my fiance Burke, 44 male, almost 5 years ago when I was 22, and they were 40 and 34. They both work together, and for privacy purposes, I'm keeping their occupation a secret. But I met Burke first, we became good friends, and then I met Trevor. I was immediately infatuated with Trevor. He and I spoke quite a bit. We went out on a few dates, and I thought he felt the same way about me. But one day, he dropped a bomb on me where he basically told me he never felt anything for me other than friendship and doesn't want to lead me on anymore. I played it cool and pretended that I too only wanted friendship, and he laughed and said, "Great, glad we're on the same page." I was bitter and spiteful at first, but eventually I got over it and Trevor and I became best friends. Instead of avoiding him and cutting him out, my pride got in the way and I didn't want to appear butthurt, so I carried on like nothing happened. I have zero feelings for Trevor now. We're much better off being friends than lovers anyway. During that time, I only ever saw Burke when he was at work, and he and I had a running joke where I owed him a date. Then he gave me a lift home one day because it was raining, and he said, "Now you owe me dinner." After joking around about it for a few years, one day I said, "The heck with it, Burke, let's go get dinner." So we went out as friends and had a good time, and we kept hanging out afterward, going out for coffee and dinner and to the beach, and then after a few months of hanging out, I developed feelings for him, and apparently he also had feelings for me. And one evening after a Game of Thrones marathon, we ended up having sex. Burke and I slept together for a few months, and we weren't sure if our feelings were because of the sex or if we really did like one another. So we stopped with the sex, and the feelings never left. So we just decided to start dating. And it's been pretty great ever since. We have had minimal problems, and the ones we have had were easily resolved. Burke and I have been together for 2.5 years, living together for 1.5 years, and engaged for almost a year. We're getting married in a month. Now, Burke and Trevor have grown a bit closer since Burke and I got together, and Trevor is even going to be one of Burke's groomsmen at the wedding. I thought everything was perfect and we were all one big happy family. And here's my problem. Trevor and I went for a walk last night, and before we parted ways, he told me he's in love with me. He told me that back then, when we first met, he didn't feel it at the time, but as I've gotten older and matured and whatever, he suddenly realized that he made a mistake and he thinks we are compatible and that I became the kind of woman he wants to date. But when he realized this, Burke and I announced our relationship to the world. I told Trevor that this was the worst timing. I couldn't believe he did this to me. I'm getting married in a month and that this is totally messed up. He told me he was sorry, but he had to let his feelings be known now before I got married. He said he also hoped that some part of me still wanted him. And then he told me to take some time to process this and let him know my decision later on in the week. My decision? I love Burke. He's the man I'm going to marry. All my feelings for Trevor left years ago, as soon as I realized he was leading me on and never felt anything for me. I don't know what I'm going to do. This is going to change everything. Trevor and I will no longer be friends. Our wedding is going to be one man short. And not to mention, Burke and Trevor still work together, and they have to interact with one another quite a bit at work. And this is going to be such a mess. Part of me also feels like this is Trevor continuing to mess around with my head. He didn't want me back then, so I moved on, and now that I'm getting married, he wants what he can't have. I have no idea. I have to tell my soon-to-be husband, but I don't know when or how. Like when he comes home from work, or do I just blurt it out? Do I do it over supper? Do I do it before bed? I know that this is going to cause a pretty big awkward mess, and I want to sort this out with as minimal casualties as possible. Burke worked late last night, so when he came home, I had already finished bawling my eyes out and I was fast asleep, and when he woke up this morning, I had already left for work. It's 12:12 p.m. here where I live, and Burke will be home at 7 p.m. That gives me 7 hours to work this out in my head. I'm so upset right now. I just lost my best friend. There's no way Trevor and I can continue hanging out anymore, and once I tell Burke, he is most likely not going to like me continuing to talk to Trevor. Which is understandable. Sorry if this post is long and all over the place. I'm just so stressed out. Any advice will be greatly appreciated. Wow, OP, first of all, it sounds like you've got a really firm grip on everything that's going on. You're not confused about Trevor or about your marriage or anything like that. So good for you. You sound like a really mature and put together person. Now, regarding Trevor, I think you're right. I think he's just an a-hole and he's trying to drop a bomb in your relationship because, I don't know, I honestly don't understand him. I just think he's an idiot. So again, good for you for determining that your relationship or your friendship with Trevor is no more. Now, regarding how to tell Burke, I honestly do not think there is a best way to do this or a best moment. So I would say just do it whenever the time feels like right, but do it as quickly as possible. Burke has to know this as soon as possible. Do not sit on it for too long. And based on what you've told us about your relationship, I don't think he's gonna be mad at you or he's gonna blow up or anything. I think he's gonna take it, then he's gonna process it, and then he's just gonna be done with Trevor just as well. So in summary, OP, just tell him as soon as you can. The ambience or the setting, I don't think really matters. And what do you guys think about this situation? How would you go about telling your significant other if this happened to you? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they said. Too Many Aunts says, quote, I have to tell my soon-to-be husband, but I don't know when or how. Like, when he comes home from work, or do I just blurt it out? Do I do it over supper? Do I do it before bed? End quote. As soon as you get the opportunity, sit down and be like, I have something I need to talk to you about, and tell him what happened. That Trevor confessed that he is in love with you the other day, and you're super uncomfortable, and you don't think he should be at the wedding. Seriously, disinvite him from the wedding. You're also going to have to stop hanging out with Trevor, not because Burke is going to make you stop, but this is a huge disrespect to you and your relationship. You both really should cut him off. His behavior was completely unacceptable. Sorry it all came to this. This situation sucks. Sad face. And OP responds, I already planned on cutting Trevor out. This whole situation just breaks my heart because I didn't see it coming at all. And now I have to adjust to life without having my best friend around, and Burke now has to deal with working next to a guy who tried to steal his fiancée. Sad face. Anon Girl 2018 says, this was really a douche move on Trevor's part. He should have never told you these things. There was no purpose in doing so. He should have kept his feelings to himself. He crossed a very major boundary here. I think you should just tell your fiancé as soon as you're alone with him. Just tell him that you two need to talk about something relating to Trevor. Unfortunately, I'd like to believe that Trevor didn't mean to get in your head like this. He probably thought getting this off his chest would be the best, but obviously it wasn't. It's not okay, and obviously it will be up to you and your fiancé with whether or not you plan to keep Trevor in your life. I feel like I have heard too many stories about people who think it's a grand idea to tell people they are in love with them before one of them gets married. It's just the worst. By the way, heck yeah, people are awful on this sub about age gaps. Probably why you're getting downvotes. You rock. I'm 21 female and dating 30 male. I am the happiest I have ever been and match with him very well. So your relationship really gives me some hope for the future. And OP responds, it's because an older man dating a much younger girl is seen as either A, he has something wrong with him, B, she has daddy issues, or C, a combination of both, and the older guy wants to control the younger girl. It's foolish, really. I'm glad my relationship gives you hope, girl. Smiley face. I am a bit of an old soul, and I had to mature faster than most girls. So while my friends were 18 and 19, drinking and having fun with their boyfriends, I was living alone, working full-time to support myself while going to college. Guys my age just don't cut it for me anymore. The way I see it, if you're both happy and over the age of 19, age is just a number. And Self-Aware says, well, he's a bit full of himself, isn't he? I get the impression he honestly thinks you're going to leap at the chance now he's finally deemed you good enough for him. Wedding and Burke be damned. And of course he's timed it to cause the greatest uproar possible. Bar doing the I object on the day. Tell your husband as soon as possible before this slime decides to stir the pot in his direction too. Alright, well the community agrees that OP needs to tell Burke as soon as she possibly can and get Trevor out of her life. And apparently OP agrees with that as well. So now, let's move on to the update to see how this story ends. But of course, before that, here's another one of my playlists for you to enjoy after this video. Now let's get on with that update. I'd like to thank you all for your comments. They really helped. Before I tell you about how I handled it, I'd like to address the big point that came up in my last post. I get where most people are coming from with the whole age different thing, but for me, age is just a number. As long as you love each other and have a connection, and one of you isn't taking advantage of the other, then age doesn't matter. I was 25 and he was 42 when we started pursuing one another. Also, I was the one who went after him, not the other way around. Large age gaps don't always equal that both parties involved have something wrong with them. I work in a nursing home, so the horror stories in the comments don't scare me. I've seen wives in their 50s with dementia, while their husband in their 60s is as fit and healthy. I see 30 and 40-year-olds who have suffered strokes and can no longer take care of themselves. And I see couples the same age who are both in the nursing home because they can no longer take care of themselves. But I also see spouses, young and old, coming in to visit and care for their significant other because having a loved one fall ill isn't the worst thing on the planet. And if some of you seriously think, I didn't sign up for this, now I have to waste my life taking care of my spouse who stood by me for 10 plus years, what a drag, then there is something seriously wrong with you. If my husband's health starts to decline, then I will be there for him. If he drops dead 20 years from now, then at least I got to spend 20 years with my husband and he got to spend the rest of his life with me. Having said that, I'll give you all my update. So, first I spoke to Burke that night. He came home from work and before he got too comfy, I told him we needed to talk and then we sat down and spoke. I started by telling him about the start of my and Trevor's relationship because he didn't know how our friendship began. I then told him about how he confessed to being in love with me and how I have zero feelings for him. I love Burke and only Burke, and he's the man I'm going to marry. Burke didn't look too surprised. He said he had a feeling that something like this was going to happen because every time Trevor, Burke, and I are in the same general area, Trevor always has this look on his face and seems annoyed and agitated in general. He always assumed Trevor was salty about our relationship together. Apparently, it is common gossip around the workplace that Trevor wants a piece of Burke's woman. Burke also told me that he's kind of glad this happened in a way because part of him always worried that I had feelings for Trevor or was going to leave him for Trevor because Trevor is a bit closer to my age than he is. Anyway, I messaged Trevor and told him that there was no choice and that I love Burke and I'm getting married to him next month. Trevor left me on red and removed me from Facebook almost immediately afterward. I've seen him out in public a few times here and there, but we never spoke. He wouldn't even look at me. After about a week or two, he texted me and told me that he was sorry things had to come to this. He was almost 100% certain that I still had feelings for him and that this was going to have a different ending. He told me he was kicking himself in the ass for douching me around in the past and missing out on his chance with me, and he told me that if I changed my mind, I know how to contact him. I never replied. I feel closer to my fiancé more than ever, and we've both decided to try for a baby. Smiley face. I've been thinking of asking Burke about starting a family for a while now, but I wanted to wait until after the wedding, so I wasn't trying to squeeze my pregnant belly into a wedding dress. And apparently, he was having the same thoughts as I was. I took my last birth control pill on Saturday, and we've both been really busy putting in some last-minute wedding plans and trying to make a baby. Thanks for your help, Reddit. A piece of me still feels hollow because I just lost my best friend of 5 years, and part of me wishes there was a different outcome, where I could have both my man and my bestie in my life and things could back to the way they used to be. But I know that's impossible. But I'll be okay in the end. I wish I could invite you all to the wedding, but sadly, we're already full. Heart. Well, OP, I'm gonna call this a happy update because, well, Trevor Douchebag is out of your life, out of the wedding, and you and Burke are better than ever and planning for the future. So here's wishing you both the best in the future. Hope your wedding goes fantastic and that your family planning goes great. Take care and thank you for sharing. Now, let's finish this video with a mood booster post. This post is from the subreddit Malicious Compliance, and it's by user recommendation number 191. Everything is easy, why are you charging me so much? So, I work in the trades and my neighbor is retired. He recently asked me to fabricate a roof rack for his RV to put his boat on. I really don't like to do side work because my regular work is hard enough, but it's my neighbor, so I agreed and said, no problem, fairly simple. 5 hours worth of work, $150. This is a friend and neighbor price. I make a lot more than that in real life. On the flip side, everyone else he talked to wanted a crap load more money, go figure. He balked at it because he saw a video on YouTube and it's easy and doesn't take that long and I'm charging him an arm and a leg. I told him that it was video editing. Fab takes time. Okay, no problem. I told him if he did the fab, I would do the welding for free. The fab is the most work and it's not as much fun as the welding. This is Malicious Compliance because he told me that the fabrication work is easy, over and over again. It's like a reverse Uno card. I let him do the easy part of everything. This is in real time because it's still not finished at the time of posting. This started Sunday. Today is Wednesday afternoon. So I have 4 whole days available to do it. It's still not done. 4 hours in my estimate. Unfortunately, a bunch of the cuts got rejected by the quality control and the welder because they weren't square, and his design is a poor design, so it needs gussets and the like. Likewise, all of the weld locations that are not ground down to bare metal are showing rust, so he needs to take the top bit of the rust off. For those in the know, it's a mix of new and old square tubes and angles. If I weld something up and it breaks because of crappy design, it's on me. You have an RV that's going off-road and you have a 6-foot reach on this roof rack with a boat vibrating on a forest service road. I'm not going to weld a 1-inch square tube to a 1-inch square tube and say it's okay. I'm a certified welder and I'm well aware of the limitations of a 1-inch dom square tube. No matter my penetration. Gussets, gussets, gussets. Today, Wednesday afternoon, I get home and he's still working on it. That's 4 full days that he can work on it. The fabrication work that I said would take me 4 hours, but he didn't want to pay for it. And now he's asking a lot of questions. I love the guy and I've lived here a long time and I'll live here much longer. But shouldn't he be looking up those answers in the comments on the YouTube tutorial? I'm sorry, but life is not a YouTube video tutorial. He understands now. He is almost finished with the fabrication and he looked at me after doing hours of grinding on Wednesday and said, "This is not that easy." Yeah, that's why I told you to do it. It could have been done on Monday and you would be camping this week. Sorry for the rant, but I'm a carpenter and a welder and everything is so easy, yet no one wants to do it themselves. Why can't I just do it for free? Try asking a mover after 40 hours of the week if they can move all your crap just for pizza and beer. Think about it. I should have gotten into HVAC. OP's edit. It has been welded, not by me, and I'm guessing it's a handyman because a lot of those welds look cold and no prep was done on painted or rusty surfaces. Think he's on Reddit? If so, I think it's the cabbage rolls that gave it away. Well, OP, it seemed like a fair deal. You were just letting him do the easy part so you can do the hard part. Well, I guess he learned his lesson. Thanks for sharing, OP. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume